I am so excited about 2023. It's going to be really the first year that we see the movie industry get back to normal following the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. And there's so many great films coming out that I had to make an honorable mentions list. Again, this is just a reflection of how many great films are coming out. So my honorable mentions for my most anticipated films of the year are Aquaman 2, because I really had a lot of fun with the first one. I really like Jason Momoa in this role. Knock at the Cabin, which is, of course, the new M. Night movie. The first trailer looks really appealing. I mean, Rob's been telling me a lot of great things about the story. That sounds great. I'm a big fan of the Ant-Man character, so Ant-Man 3 is up there. Creed 3, because I really like the other Creed films. The David Fincher, Michael Fassbender movie, The Killer, sounds amazing, so that's up there. And Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 looks amazing, so those are my honorable mentions. Let's get into my top 10 here. My number 10 most anticipated film of 2023, and this is going to sound really weird, but it's Transformers Rise of the Beast. I know. Other than Bumblebee and the first Transformers movies, all the other Transformers movies suck. I understand, but this one is not being directed by Michael Bay, and I cannot help it. I'm a sucker for it, okay? I grew up with my Transformers toys, okay? Give me a break. But I'm really, really looking forward to Transformers, even if it turns out to be terrible. So that's my number 10 most anticipated. My number 9 most anticipated, you know Henry Cavill had to be on here somewhere, but it's Henry Cavill's ARGYLE. It's being directed by Matthew Vaughn. This could be the beginning, they're hoping it's going to be the beginning of a brand new franchise for this thing. So ARGYLE is my number 9. At number 8, Andy Muschietti's The Flash. Now, look, DC can be a mixed bag. I like most of the DC films, but everything I have heard, both personally from people I know connected to the situation and online chatter and the scuttlebutt coming out of the studios, is that Warner Brothers loves this Flash movie. Andy Muschietti is a terrific director. And of course, you got Michael Keaton showing up as Batman in it. Why not? So The Flash is my number 8 most anticipated. Number 7, Christopher Nolan returns in Oppenheimer. Look, I'm a sucker for these true story things. It's Christopher Nolan, who is probably top 2 or 3 best director going today. That is one of the most impressive, star-studded, top-to-bottom, talent-rich casts you've ever seen. The first full trailer just came out. It looks amazing. So Oppenheimer is up there for me for most anticipated. At number 6 is still a movie that I have a 5% doubt that it even exists, but it is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And you know, I think I was probably always excited for this movie. I just didn't realize it until that big trailer came out. And once the trailer came out, I see Sala there talking to Indy, and the music, John Williams' music starts to hit, and it just, unlike Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, like even just watching the previews for this, you kind of felt that Indiana Jones magic. And I would be lying to you. Now, do I think it's going to be awesome? I don't know. You got James Mangold directing. He's a fantastic director. So I got a good amount of confidence in it, but it doesn't matter. I would be lying to you if I didn't admit that I am super, super excited for this film. At number 5, it is the 4th installment of the John Wick franchise. Now, look, I don't particularly think that the new trailer for John Wick Chapter 4 was the best trailer, but it doesn't matter. It's John Wick. John Wick films have been thrilling, exciting, creating new ways to bring action to the screen. They even gave it its own name. What is it, like Gun Fu, I think is what they call it. I don't know. But it completely resurrected Keanu Reeves' career. Again, he's done it a couple of times. But this is just simply one of the most flat-out entertaining franchise of movies that you can watch, and I cannot wait for number 4. In my number 4 spot of my most anticipated movies of 2023, it's Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio teaming up again for Killers of the Flower Moon. Reading the synopsis through all this kind of stuff, it just looks like it's going to be that Scorsese thing. Whenever Scorsese and DiCaprio have gotten together to make magic, it's been incredible. And I will admit, I'm a little personally connected, like my accountant's wife, true story, my accountant's wife is one of the stars of the film. So I've got a little bit of a personal connection there too, but honestly, even if that wasn't the case, Killers of the Flower Moon has got to be most people's on their most anticipated list. Okay, so now we get into the top 3, and this one was going to be lower, maybe even only in my honorable mentions list, even though I love the franchise, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, I, like everybody else, love the first Guardians of the Galaxy. The second one I quite enjoy. I like quite a bit, even though I don't like it as much as the first one. So I would be excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 no matter what, but I don't know if I would have had it this high. And then I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special. And I remember how much I love these characters. And I love their dynamics together. And just James Gunn's style that he brings to this ragtag group. And after watching the holiday special, I was foaming at the mouth to watch the third one. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 goes all the way up to my number 3 most anticipated film of 2023. Now, as we get into my number 1 and number 2, I was struggling with this because one day I'd feel like one should be number 1. The next day I'd feel like the other one should be number 1, but I'm gonna go with my basic gut here. So my number 2 most anticipated film of the year, and it very easily could have been number 1, but is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is simply one of my favorite films of the last 5 years. Like and the funny thing about it is, if you've been watching me for a long time, you knew like a full year before that movie came out, I was crapping all over it. I thought it was a dumb idea for a movie. When I saw the first trailers, I didn't even like the animation style at first. And then I saw the movie and I fell in love. I love this movie. I thought it was the best comic book movie of that year, and that was the same year that Black Panther and Avengers Infinity War came out, and I, to this day, firmly believe that Into the Spider-Verse was the best comic book film of that year. They showed us about 15 minutes of the new Across the Spider-Verse at CinemaCon back in April, and it was every bit of engaging and entertaining as the original film was. I cannot wait for this. Again, I'm kind of surprised I'm not making it my number 1, but I'm going to go with my gut here. It's going to be my number 2 most anticipated film, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And that, of course, brings us to number 1, and it's Dune. Dune Part 2. I mean, what good Canadian kid Denis Villeneuve did with the first one, I can't imagine. You know, I've talked to Rob about this before. I simply cannot fathom any filmmaker taking that source material and making a better movie than what he did with Dune Part 1. It was, he created this world of Arrakis in the way that I felt like I was living in it with the characters. It felt tangible, it felt real. You felt the bleakness, but you also felt the color when it would pop. The whole way he handles the story of Paul Atreides is amazing. You get out into the desert, it's amazing. The worms were just, the visual representation of worms was incredible, but they never relied on the visuals, even though they're some of the best visuals of the year. They never relied on that. It was all about story and characters and the family dynamics and the intrigue and the political espionage and all that kind of stuff. And now going into Part 2, where they really stepped it up, they did some really interesting castings for the new characters. And so, yeah, I feel it's close to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but I feel comfortable saying Dune Part 2 is my most anticipated film of 2023. Now, I've had a lot of anticipated films over the years that end up being pretty bad, and how will this work out? We'll find out by the end of the year, but that is my most anticipated films of 2023.